Howdy hackers, and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. I'm always trying to find new angles to the content that we are bringing, and this time, for a bit of a sad reason, I've been looking into managing groups, especially with the angle of membership. So if you are managing a group, you are sort of managing a brand, and you would like that to be associated with good stuff, which means that you need to recruit people who are willing to contribute to that brand, but you also need to handle people leaving, being recruited by others, internal conflicts, people having different opinion, people rage quitting for hating something or someone within the group and then just wanting to get out. So this time I'm going to dwell over membership in scene groups and see this like my opinion statement, where I would like you to counter argue if you have different opinions towards what I'm saying. So please use the comment field really frequently this time. I am looking forward to your feedback to this. Over to membership in scene groups. Okay, so about membership. My original view was pretty much like sports team. You can only play for one team because you are fighting against all the other teams. I was absolutely adamantly against dual membership. It was requested a number of times by people in FairLight to also be a member of other groups, but I always said no. You have to choose. It's us or them. You cannot be in both. But I grew to started accepting one exception, and that was musicians and graphicians wanting to be sort of member of a collective of like-minded. There was something called Thwemix, for instance, where I know that both Avalon and Red Devil were member of, and they were more teams for other musicians. So they shared their common musical experiences and stuff like that. So I thought that, well, what the heck, that might be fine. It's not a direct competition, so that should be fine. But there is an issue with this concept, and that is when members of the group sort of produce more that could be consumed within the group. Let's say you have a graphician that paints picture after picture, and nobody is able to make anything out of that. Or a musician producing a lot of stuff, but nobody within the group is able to do something out of that. Then you could build frustration, and that person could be really annoyed because there is no like secondary outlet for the art that is produced. So I've learned to a bit of reconsider there, but let's move into how I sort of changed my position and what I think now. Okay, so now membership is more like having like a scene home, and then you form teams and constellation based on sort of a common creative goal. Most of that is still sort of within the group, but not always. Let me take a few of examples here. If you take FairLight's and Genesis Project's demo The Ghost, Red Crap of Genesis Project was listening to Trident of FairLight's talk during Fjelldata 2023. And he got inspired and found a number of ideas on how to use the technology that Trident was talking about. So they got together and talked about that and explored the opportunities of that. And the result, and then they brought a number of people along to ensure that you would have music and you would have additional graphics. So Fagel, who did all of the music, I think, and then both Pal and Sarge also contributed with graphics to that. So they built the constellation around an idea that was explored between two people across group borders. Trident didn't need to join Genesis project, and Red Crab didn't need to join FairLight for this to happen. You could form a creative collaboration across the group borders. That's no problem. Membership didn't need to shift for this to happen. The same was also for the other demo that was one of the predominant one on this year's Field Data, Me and Batman, where Two Flower and Trident collaborated over that. So Two Flower and Trident, I think TDM did the music. I should remember that. I don't, but so they collaborated. They know each other since many years, so it's not strange that they could collaborate over something. An old pal who happened to be in another group, that's absolutely fine. Neither of them needed to change groups for this collaboration to be a working one. I'm not really sure if this is a good example, but performers, I see performers as sort of a recurring context for gathering a number of people from a number of groups to make things that are absolutely beautiful. You have contributors to that, such as Elman and Red Crab. They are both from Genesis Project. Trap is from Bonsai. Linus is from Sensor, I guess. Mahoney contributes, and I should have talked to Pex about this, but again, my view, and I'm not saying this is the fact, that's how I understand it. I think Pex sees himself as more as a free agent, and Performers is just a great collaboration where he can get an outlet for his sort of demo aspirations, because others are also contributing to build a bigger picture. So Performers being more a context than like a group. Again, feel free to comment down below and see if you have other views on this, but that's how I see Performers. I tend to see Fossils as the same, also less of a group, more of a context that people can gather around to create something common. Peck's view, or my understanding of how Peck's and Peck's Mahoney works, that would be the same basically for per node, because I tend to he's registered in CSDB as member of Horizon, but I also see him more like a free agent who can contribute to Boost Design or Larson Brothers or wherever he feels that his skill set could contribute, and he gets a fair outlet and the project is interesting enough for him to dedicate his time into doing something for that context. Again, I should have talked to Daniel about that, but I haven't done that, so these are just my guesses or assumptions. And then you have the superstars. You have LFT, who makes his own group. He does all the graphics, all the music, all the code, the loading system, and everything. To my knowledge, he's not really collaborated with a number of people into making something bigger, because when he makes it, it's super. He doesn't need any external contribution for that. So he builds his own context. Formerly, you know, he's a member of Cryo. I'm not really sure if Cryo is doing anything more than what LFT is doing. So, I mean, for me, LFT is the group, even if I know technically, CSDB technically, that's not true. You could argue that this collaboration, being sort of agents that can find your common context where you work, is only applicable for the demo section. But that's not entirely true. When you look at cracking, I'm well aware of at least one person who is a member of one of those release groups that crack and aspire to make first releases of their stuff. But the same guy is also member of one of those groups that produce good cracks of all games, or superior cracks of all games. He's doing that under two different handles, so it's not easy to see that. But if you know it, you know it. So, because his original group is not really into cracking all games, so that's why he needs to have that other side, and they are not colliding, they're not competing, so I guess that could be totally fine. Whereas in demo competition, you would often see the same person contributing to multiple entries competing with one another, and most groups would see that's that as a fine thing, as long as sort of the main release for the group is sort of the main focus, of course. But I still think the basis should be basically that you are in one group, and then you find and that being your like scene home, and then you find ways to collaborate inside the group but also with others. Not everybody inside the group would be your friend, but when you seek your social context, you could ensure that you don't go into context where there are only people you like. You can skip the context where there are people you don't like. Whereas in groups, it's more difficult unless you are the one deciding who is in the group or not. So for the demo side, group membership is no longer a factor that limits us. You could form teams that are, and your group is only where you come from, and that's not the defining factor who you could collaborate with. You are no less of a friend of people in the scene. You are no less a friend of the context where you are working if your group name says something else. And if you have contributed positively for a context, a collaboration over a number of years, of course you're seen as one of the really good friends. So group membership is just where you're from. If you are releasing something where you are contributing, you would be part of a cooperation between your original group and the groups of the people that you're working with. Let's say, as an example, you have the FairLight Offense Prosonics. Great collaboration that spanned multiple years, and the group membership, that label on each of the members was less relevant. The key here were the people involved and the passion they invested and the result they yielded. They contributed with prides to their name and their original groups, but which guy was in which group was actually sort of less relevant. So I think skip the idea of dual membership. Be a member of a group and find a creative outlet for your skill set. Find the collaboration where your skill set fits good. And if you are rather few in your group and you always collaborate with the same guys, then you might even change groups. But that's not sort of the first idea. The first idea is to find the context where your creative capacity is best executed. So skip dual membership, have one membership, and find the context for your skill set. And keep the scene alive. All the best. Bye-bye.